Now 2025. Welcome to part two in relation to my research of the 23rd of October 2023 attacks in Israel, supposed. Okay, and we're looking at how this ties in with the international government fraud. These are screenshots taken from the Companies House records and other research. You can use this as a template to verify all of the evidence that I'm showing you to see it's all true. So we're on page 9 and we were looking at how it is already tied in with television companies and the entertainment industry. Now, this is very important because when we come from the ITV Wales company, which was incorporated in 1975, okay, 4 years after the World Economic Forum started, we then see that you have the same director linked to the IDF Group Limited. IDF, okay? Remember, we're looking at the Israeli supposed attacks against Israel by Hamas, supposedly, on the 23rd of October 2023. And here is the IDF Group Limited, and you can see on the left there, it's an old company, 1903. This company was created, okay, 1903. It links in straight away into the international fraud because the address there, I haven't highlighted it, but this, care of Kroll, that company links into the fraud already in my research, and 10 Fleet Place also links into the fraud massively, and that actually links into the research of Tony Blair and I believe David Cameron. That address has been used frequently throughout our government's fraudulent system they have in place. So it was started in 1903 and it dissolved in 2015. And it had a previous company name, and you can see here, look when it started. Remember, we mentioned the Georgia Guidestones, okay, that were supposedly discussed in 1979 and built in 1980. Well, here, this company started in 1979, okay, and they changed the company name in 1991. Well, that's the same year as the Gulf War. And look when it changed its name for the second time. So it was called Fort Limited here in the middle bit, and then it changed its name after 1991, November 2001. Okay, that's 3 months, 2 months after the World Trade Center disaster, which was in September 2021. September 2001. So 2 months afterwards, it changed its company name. That is very unlikely a coincidence. As you'll see throughout all my research, you can see that it's clearly triggering name changes prior to and after the World Trade Center disaster, which suggest they knew exactly what they were doing, they knew it was happening, and they were actually part of it. And you can see here they changed the name again. The last time was in 2006 in February, and it didn't dissolve. It dissolved in 2015. And it's a fraudulent entity company. Okay, so this is the actual name of the incorporation document. I think it says Hertfordshire Public House Trust Company Limited. Okay, so it's a criminal organisation. This is the IDF Group, okay? And you can see, just to confirm there on the right, they've got the company as Trust House Forte Public Limited Company from 1979 to 1991. And you can see... So they haven't actually registered the name. Okay, so they haven't even registered it. So they've even got the incorporated date 1903, which is what this document ties into, but they haven't even registered it. You can see they haven't. The date's the same. Okay, and that's the company name. So they've never registered the incorporation document, which means it's fraudulent. Okay, because it's never been registered, and they could have transferred it across. You'll see many, many examples of this all the way through the research. So even the IDF Group Limited has never been registered lawfully on the electronic register. It's criminal, it's fraudulent, and that means there's no accountability and liability for it. So what does IDF stand for? Those of you who don't know, I've just shown here, it's an acronym for Israel Defense Forces, commonly known as Israel by its Hebrew acronym Tzal. Sorry, I'm pronouncing that wrong. Potentially. The IDF is the state of Israel's military, including ground forces, air force and navy. So let's look into that company. So IDF Group, we're just in the people records, and immediately here I noticed there's companies that featured through my fraud. On the left there you've got Simon Fraser, who was appointed in July 2001. Look at this. I suspect this is not a coincidence. Okay, so he was appointed in July 2001 on the left there. That's the same month that the Larry Silverstein purchased the lease for the World Trade Center building, and he resigned 2 days before the sorry, not 2 days, because it was the 11th of September, wasn't it? A few days before the World Trade Center disaster. And he's linked, and you can see now a company called Excelsior Hotels Limited linked to him. And you can see he was appointed in June 2001, okay, prior to the World Trade Center disaster, and then resigned after the World Trade Center disaster on the 12th of November 2001. That company, as I've said, already featured in my fraud, and you can see here that it dissolved as I'm reporting the fraud, okay? Even though it's a very old company, from 1936, it dissolved in March 2022. That's no coincidence. That'll be as I'm exposing the fraud. And the address features throughout the fraud as well. You've got King Street. Okay, so a lot of the addresses actually have King, Queen, Prince of, etc. in there. And of course, you have the royal family connections in relation to all of this fraud. So that's an address in Manchester. So Excelsior Hotels, it's fraudulent because on the incorporation documents, you actually have this name, which has not been registered under that record. And of course, they would know this. It's completely deliberate, guys. The same director is linked to Hewlett-Packard on the right. I just thought that'd be interesting to show that. Within the IDF company, you've got Timothy Mason. Okay, and on the right, you'll see he's linked to 481 companies. Is that 481? And there's interesting companies, I thought. You've got Irradiated Products. There were some others as well that pertain to radiation. But also they're linked to the Cookie Jar Limited, which is a company that already featured in my research, and a defence company, according to this, Eurus Defence Support Services. So we'll just have a little look at that. And you can see that that company changed its name around the World Trade Center disaster. You can see the last company name change. Well, first of all, it changed its name in 1989. Well, first of all, 1989, yeah. Then in March 2001, before the World Trade Center disaster. And then it changed again in July 2002 after the World Trade Center disaster. And that's still an active company. All right, so you can see the connection to the World Trade Center disaster with the timing of that. Within the IDF group, you've got Graham Parrott, links to Cancer Research UK. Well, that had already featured in my research regarding Lucy Letby. And Cancer Research actually started in November 2000. If you look at Cancer Research UK, it started in November 2001, 2 months after the World Trade Center disaster. And on the incorporation document, you have AstraZeneca. So right back then, they were thinking of, I suspect, I'm not going to say it in case I take the video down, but it all ties in with the intervention, shall we say. So we've got IDF Group, we've got a link to Cancer Research, we've now got further links to television companies here via the same company, same person. International Television Enterprises, ITV Studios, ITV Breakfast Limited, Sky Limited, and I'm just picking some to show you some examples. So here's Sky Limited, okay, because they're all compromised, all of the main media companies, news companies. So here's Sky Limited. You can see all its different Sky names on the right there that it had. And on the incorporation document, Swift Incorporations and Jordans and Sons Limited. There's the Swift Corporations Limited, those of you looking on a small screen. And there is the Jordans and Sons. Fraudulent entity company. Criminal company, okay? They would, of course, know it. Certainly the company's house creating it, at least one person in that company. Within the IDF group, you've got David Stevens, and he links to a Siemens company. Well, Siemens has already featured in the Threat to Humanity document. That was a German company that was founded in 1847, 3 years after the company's house started. And they are linked to the Nazi regime and international bribery. I think they were setting aside $50 million a year in bribery, according to the research. You can go and look at Siemens and have a look at that company. Within the IDF group, you've got David Stevens, and he's linked to the Italian Wide Agencies Limited, so an Italian connection. But also now we make very important connections through to GlaxoSmithKline. Those of you who don't know what this company is, it's an international pharmaceutical company, but it also creates the likes of Beecham's, which most of you know is what we use for our cold symptoms. Okay, and this is important because it ties in with the information of Dominic Cummings. In 2020, I believe it was April, might be March 2020, he supposedly took and this is shown in a bit more detail on another document which we'll come to, took a trip from London to Barnard Castle for an eye test. This was during lockdown, okay? During lockdown, when we were all told to be locked up and not to go anywhere. And he drove there for an eye test. Well, Barnard Castle is where GlaxoSmithKline is based in the UK. And when you go into that company, which you'll see in another document, it links back in to everything I'm talking about, including the same Russian linked government company linking to the intelligence agencies called Hakluyt. Okay, that same company links into Justin Welby, the Archbishop of Canterbury. And you can see that also on my research surrounding the Archbishop. So here we have GlaxoSmithKline again, and I'm just showing an example of the fraud in relation to that company, GlaxoSmithKline International Limited, and they are also Swift Incorporations and Jordan's and Sons Limited. Fraudulent because that company has never been registered. Going back to Nova Batida Festivals Limited, so all we've gone is gone back to that same company right back at the beginning we're looking at, and we're now looking at another director, and that's Dennis Desmond. And Dennis Desmond is linked to the Isle of Wight Festival Limited, okay, on the right. This is very important because that then links back into Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, and you're going to see some links in a minute going straight back, or going very quickly back to the company. So Isle of Wight is obviously down in Hampshire. The Fleming member that removed me as a director was an NHS chief executive in charge of a £700 million budget for and 10,000 staff for the area of Hampshire, Isle of Wight and Dorset. Okay, it's all connected very quickly around those areas. So now this company, I've already shown it on my previous research linking into the fraud. Also, I found this interesting. So the same director is linked to Santa's Kingdom Scotland Limited. What does Santa spell if you rearrange the words? Okay, yes, Christmas is all a mocking of the true creator, everybody. All right, rearrange those letters. What does it make? So here's Santa's Kingdom Scotland, and you can see it links to an address in Ireland according to this. This is very important because those of you who've seen my Iona Prophecies evidence, which ties into all of this, you'll see it links very importantly via St Columbus, and again potentially false prophecies, to Ireland. He came from Ireland and went to Iona, which is an island off the coast of Scotland. And that ties very quickly with obviously the Scottish evidence that I've been talking about. On the incorporation document for Santa's Kingdom Scotland, here it is. There's several things I've made a note of. First of all, this name, because that features throughout the fraud. When you research Stephen Mabbott, there's multiple records for him that Companies House has created. Some of them have hundreds, if not thousands, of companies linked to them. I suspect that's a false name because there's no verification deliberately by Companies House, which again is another element to avoid accountability and liability for the fraud. So that's the first thing. So that immediately links to the fraud. Also, the date is fairly relevant. It's in July 2002 that this company started. Well, that's not long after the World Trade Center disaster. And also, you've got an address on there of Edinburgh on the incorporation document, bearing in mind what I've been saying about Edinburgh in part 1, I believe. Or maybe in this part, I'm not too sure. So, bearing in mind what we're talking about here and how it links into prophecies, within that Santa's Kingdom, you've got Jeffrey Charles Ellis, who is a concert and event promoter, and he links to a company called Unholy Alliance Limited. Bearing in mind what we're talking about, potential satanic connections, okay, and Luciferian connections, and also tying in with the Church of England and other prophecies, completely against God. Okay, all of this, remember, is completely against the moral conscience and the rational state of mind, which I believe has been instilled by our Creator to protect us all. So we've got the Unholy Alliance Limited. I just thought this was interesting. This is possibly a mockery of Scripture. The Three Mad Monkeys Limited. Okay, possibly a mockery of the Three Wise Men. Bearing in mind it's under the same company, so I just thought I'd show that. I thought that was quite interesting. The same director is linked to the Concert Promoters Association Limited Company. So here it is, the Concert Promoters Association. And here's their incorporation document. And the address for that, Gresham Street here, is an address they use throughout the fraud, and various variations of that address, so different numbers within Gresham Street. Within that concert company, it doesn't look like I've marked anymore, actually. We'll go a little bit further. What are we on, 14 minutes? Yeah, I haven't marked this bit, but highlighted this bit, but we'll do it anyway. So you've got, within the concert company, you've got Paul Fenn. He's linked to the Live Music Industry Venues and Entertainment Limited Company. And when you go into that, he's also linked to Ingenious Companies. Those of you who follow my evidence will know that the same company crops up throughout all the research, called Ingenious Partners LLP 2, I think it is, or Ingenious Partners 2 LLP. We'll see it in a second anyway. So here's a connection immediately via this director to Ingenious. Well, Ingenious is very important because it links to Hollywood, and we're aware of everything that's going on in Hollywood at the moment. There's no coincidence, I suspect, with all these fires we're seeing with the P. Diddy stuff. It's all to do with this exposure. It's all tied in, everybody, okay? They're probably trying to destroy evidence. It may be, let's hope it is some sort of intervention, divine intervention, but I do suspect it's to destroy evidence by all the people involved in this. And on the incorporation document, I haven't highlighted any of this to just show you all these companies then linked into it. All different film companies. Okay, loads of Ingenious companies. Remember, they create thousands of companies. And the reason they do that, shell companies, because they can then launder small amounts of money potentially through those companies to eventually send it into offshore accounts. And eventually it becomes a lot of money, doesn't it? And of course, this is what this system of fraud is all about. The banks producing forged bank documents for the illegal entities. They can move the money through any legitimate companies into an illegal one and then send it using the offshore account transaction system, SWIFT, and any other system they've got in place. But it seems as though the SWIFT international transaction system is important in this. And that was actually also started and linked to Jordan's Limited or Jordan's and Sons Limited SWIFT incorporations. That will also be criminal and fraudulent. And of course, they'll be doing this with tax contributions. So they'll be defrauding millions of people through the tax, and not only the tax, but affiliations they'll have with other companies to create extortionate quotations and then backhanders in relation to that. And I found this very quickly when I was a director within Export Manor Freehold Limited, because I obtained my own quotations as a director to try and benefit that company, and found that they were massively cheaper than those being provided by the management company, where other directors were then supporting the higher quotation, which meant, of course, I'm being defrauded, and anyone else who is innocent was being defrauded because we're paying way more. That was in relation to an insurance policy for Exbourne Manor, and it was £4,500 to £5,000 cheaper annually, and the quotation I obtained was a like for like, if not better, than the insurance policy they were producing. So this is another element of what this international government fraud is doing, and it's completely criminal, of course, and goes against, as I've said, God, or if you don't want to say God, our Father, completely against them, because of course we don't victimize people, do we, if we're following our Creator, who has given us the moral conscience and a rational state of mind. Anyway, going on, so this director is linked to that Ingenious company, Patrick McKenna, and he has got 317 companies, but these were the important ones. You've got Evelyn Partners Asset Management Limited on the left there. Well, that's very important because it links in with the Rishi Sunak evidence, which I'll hopefully show you in a minute. But here we are on the right, as I've just said to you, Ingenious Film Partners 2 LLP. Just to show you that's exactly the same company. Within that Ingenious company we were looking at a moment ago, you also have Susan Ford, is then linked to Westminster Arms Houses. And then which I thought was interesting because it's just a link to Westminster sort of area. Then you go in through this Denise O'Donoghue, and you then link in with the same television studio companies or some other ones. So I'm just showing you those. And then the same company, Ingenious, Robert Storer. Is that Storer? My eyes are terrible. Yeah, Storer links into Howe nominees. And then you go into other companies that are already featured throughout the fraud. On the right here, I found this interesting, and I'm sorry, Jerry Halliwell. I'm sorry, Victoria Beckham, and the rest of you. But my goodness, what have you got yourself into with your links to the entertainment industry? Because here we have Five Girls Limited. And here's Five Girls Limited. And it was started in 1997, 4 years before the World Trade Center disaster, dissolved in 2017. And it's linked to the fraud. Okay, it appears to be a forged document, or a document that was at least created after the signatures. Well, how can you sign a document without the company name already being on it? Either way, it's legitimate. And it's linked to the fraud because you've got Waterloo Services and the name Ian Saunders, which is featured again right the way through the frauds. They're using certain names to avoid the accountability and liability. They're very likely either false names, stolen names, or names of deceased people, or just made up names because there's no verification. Waterloo's is very important because it links to the international fraud, massively to the Freemasons, but also very quickly goes back to Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited via I think it's the Waterloo Legal and Services Company. So here's 5 girls on the right. Within the people record, you have Richard Harris. And Richard Harris, I've shown a couple of these because I thought this was interesting. We're all aware of I'm sure the Red Shoe Club potentially being linked to child trafficking. Well, here you have My Ruby Shoes Productions Limited. Okay, I'm just showing you some of the interesting companies here. Then you have the Annie Lennox Foundation. I thought that would be interesting to show you. And then you have Spice Girls companies. So the same director is linked to all of these companies and more. I'm just showing you some of the ones that stood out. And of course, I haven't got time to show everything. So here you have Spice Girls Limited. And when you go into Spice Girls Limited company, it started in 1996, 5 years before the World Trade Center disaster. You can see the company name changes on the right. And they're linked to the fraud. You can see on the incorporation document, ICC company formations. Well, that links to the child trafficking via Robert Maxwell and the Maxwell family, and through to the World Trade Center disaster via the research I've done. I'm sorry, ladies. You may well be you're innocent in this. My goodness me, you need to contact me as soon as you can and get on board to assist me in exposing this. Here's Victoria Beckham on the Spice Girls company. Victoria, you need to get hold of me, please. My email is garythetruthsetsusfree@gmail.com. garythetruthsetsusfree at gmail.com. 1R. Here is Emma Bunton on there. Please get in contact with me. Help expose this, please. It's going to end humanity. We need to expose these people and stop this, shut this down, this cycle that they're in whilst we can. Our creator, true creator, is watching and is judging. And anyone that does not assist with this, I can assure you now, they will face eternal consequences. If not on this earth, then it will be after, through by our creator. You have Melanie Chisholm. Please get hold of me, one of you. Here's Jerry Halliwell on the left. Julie Edwards. Then links through to, I found this interesting, so I put this. So within the company, the Spice Girls, you have Julie Martha Edwards. And they link to Great Britain Limited. I found this quite ironic, really. Not only that, but you've got Great Britain Limited and Global Strike Limited, which is linked to Great Britain Limited via Matthew Ocott. I found that quite ironic, bearing in mind I'm calling for world strikes, global strikes, international strikes, and many other people are also calling for that. So I thought that was quite interesting, so I put that in there. Also within the Spice Girls company, I just thought this was interesting. Joanne Eastgate links to a company called Monster Productions. Monster. You'll notice from my other research, there's a company called Monster Worldwide. Okay, I mean, they love to use the symbolism. I mean, it's a beast system. It's a beast. It's a monster against humanity. It literally is, and it ties in potentially with Luciferian and satanic sides of things. And we mentioned the Olympic company earlier. Well, the Olympics have many symbols within them linking back into satanic and Luciferian connections. So I just found that interesting. And the Monster Worldwide company also links in very quickly to the research of the supposed King Charles. Back within the concert company that we're looking at earlier, okay, you can see on the top of the tab there, within the concert company we're looking at earlier, you've got Robert Ballantine, I'm presuming that is, born in 1962. He's linked to the Manchester City Football Club City in the Community Foundation. Remember, those of you who follow my research will know that there's football clubs all the way through this. There's a recent suggestion that has come through from the Roman Empire with the obviously they had the games, didn't they? They're very into the games and the Olympics, etc. It was the Olympics, so I'm getting mixed up. But we're finding that a lot of football stadiums are connected, and most of them are fraudulent, and that allows the money laundering to take place through them. And of course, you have very many worldwide high-profile, multinational, multi-faith people connected through to football clubs quite often. Bournemouth Football Club is particularly interesting, has at least 5 Russian previous directors linked to it. And of course, that's no surprise now with the Russian connections to Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited via certain individuals. Also, Hampshire and Isle of Wight and Dorset connection. Well, Bob Seeley was the MP, and I believe still is, for the Hampshire and Isle of Wight area. Well, he was also the Russian minister within government. And he also set up the informal parliamentary group for UK islands, which then links into Ghislaine Maxwell. And those islands appear to be key in relation to the children's murder, abuse and torture, etc. So within the concert company, we also have Daniel Betesh, and he's linked to Manchester Music Limited. And I've shown that because it becomes relevant in a minute. And I suspect that's because the Manchester Arena bombing is very likely also linked into this international government fraud. So we're going to be talking about that now. Here's the Manchester Arena bombing research. Manchester Arena attack was an Islamic terrorist suicide bombing of the Manchester Arena in Manchester, so we're led to believe, in England on the 22nd of May 2017, following a concert by American pop singer Ariana Grande. A concert perpetrated by Islamic extremist Salman Abedi and aided by his brother, if you believe this is true. Let's research the Manchester Arena company, all right? So here we're looking at the Manchester, searching company's house on the right, Manchester Arena, and just searching that, and we see a company called Manchester Arena GP Limited. Now remember, the date of the attack was 2017, May 2017. This company was started in 2006, so we know that it will relate or pertain to it, and it was dissolved not long afterwards in 2018, okay? So 2018, it changed its company name. And it's linked to the fraud via this company, Mayor Brown Rowe. Okay, they've already been linked on my research. And on the incorporation document, see all these companies. Loads and loads of companies, legal firms, loads and loads of, you can see shell companies created under Moore law. Okay, I'm just showing some of these. There's pages and pages of them on the incorporation document. You can go and look at it. I haven't highlighted these, unfortunately, which is a shame because it would have helped a bit. This is important, and this is why I should have highlighted it before. AstraZeneca. So you now have a link. You can see right in the middle there, small writing, right in the middle of the screen, AstraZeneca US Investments Limited. It's very important. AstraZeneca, okay? We know why that's important. It all ties in. And it also ties in with the cancer research and Lucy Letby evidence. Now you can see all these Canary Wharf companies, okay, very centre business connected in London. Loads of them, okay, all linking in Canary Wharf. Well, that's relevant because the research also ties in with certain addresses at Canary Wharf. The fraud. There is also somewhere, I think it's on this page. Here we have Centrica. Okay, Centrica is a big company, a Charles company. And somewhere on here, there's a Christian company, which I do come into in my research in a bit. Just want to find that. This is why I haven't got around to highlighting it yet. So again, these people need to come forward in truth. This is an important one. I've just noticed in the middle there, P&O Princess Cruises. That links in with the World Trade Center disaster. Okay, P&O Princess Cruises. There is a Christian one on here. Just can't find it at the moment because I haven't highlighted it. I'll have to come back to it. Thanks very much for watching. I'm going to do a bit more updating on the document, and you'll see how this all ties in. And I will say, those involved in this will be watching this come forward in truth, true repentance, and a commitment together for change. We've all been deceived. Let's make this world what it is meant to be. Someone supposedly claiming to be Deborah Fleming D. Fleming came onto my live stream last night. So they're very worried about this, if that was them. And I advise you all, come forward, because our Creator is watching. Our true Creator is watching how this unfolds and giving us a chance, and you a chance. Anyone involved in this, you're being given a chance for salvation, everybody. Make no mistake. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.